Hi guys, what is worrying about some of the rhetoric we're hearing from the new government is that it sounds a lot like that of the previous government. Immigration is too high, we should invest in our own workers, and so on. Now, on paper it makes sense to train up your own workforce. It results in less nicking of talent from poor countries who may desperately need their scientists, doctors and engineers. But at the same time, there is the risk of being too reliant on workers who may up sticks at any moment and leave for better opportunities abroad. And of course, you want to provide opportunities to your own young people who wish to enter fields that may be closed off to them at the moment. Here the Welsh Secretary Jo Stevens pushed the immigration is too high line. Have a listen.
We want to be able to give young people apprenticeships and skills to have careers like that in the jobs and industries of the future. That's what we need to be doing to build labour market resilience within the country, rather than relying on bringing in people from overseas to fill those vacancies. And that net migration piece and the skills piece, if you fix them together, that's another way that you can help grow the economy.
It sounds like you're willing to say that migration is high because we're not doing the job right in this country of training people, but not willing to say that migration is too high. So, does that mean that if we do manage to fill the jobs in this country without needing to import people to do the kind of jobs you're talking about, you would still be happy for there to be similar levels of migration, but just perhaps doing different jobs?
Yeah, I think generally people feel that migration is too high, and I don't disagree with that sentiment at all. But what I want to see is, kids and young people in Wales be able to fulfil their potential, for the opportunity for them to have the skills and the training and the apprenticeships in order to go into those jobs. I think quite a lot of people would agree with looking at that group of people first, rather than saying, we've got these huge gaps, we've got to recruit from overseas. Let's make sure that, we give people the tools and the skills to build great careers in Britain.
Jo Stevens, thank you very much indeed.
Okay. Why is immigration too high? Why is that a problem? Because as we're hearing this, immigration numbers are declining. The Tory policies of, for example, stopping people from bringing dependents with them have resulted in lower immigration. Now, there's no mention, of course, of emigration, where British people are leaving because the conditions and pay are not sufficient. But we're going to have to leave that for another day. Now, she mentioned here what we need to do is train up our own workforce. So let's ignore for a moment the time that's involved in that and focus on maybe some of the issues here, because apprenticeships cost money. The government will have to train up a massive army of workers if they want to replace workers who've left, for example, following the ending of freedom of movement, or if they don't want to bring in workers from abroad. And this seems to be going against the current economic rhetoric we're hearing from the Chancellor, because it requires massive amounts of investment, and it can't be achieved through costless reform. And of course, there's the other side of the problem, the businesses themselves. Now, I've done a bit of research into this, trying to understand, why are businesses not willing to take on apprentices, for example? And they've listed off a number of reasons. For example, cost. Many small businesses in particular are operating on very tight margins, and there's risk associated with taking on extra staff. And there's a perceived feeling that the costs of training up staff, even after support from the government, just isn't worth it. Whether that's true or not, that's the perception that many small businesses have. Bureaucracy is also a problem. There are rules and regulations that need to be followed, and paperwork has to be constantly filled in, especially if the businesses are receiving financial support from the state. Now, there's a lack of information about the benefits of hiring apprentices and how to access government services when it comes to support. Small businesses may not know how to integrate apprentices into their existing workforce, and that there's actually help to achieve that. So there's a lack of information, perhaps from the government, and maybe not enough financial support. Now, some people may not be taken on because they don't have the skills necessary, and in many cases, apprentices are just seen as people who have been taken off the street to do, highly skilled jobs. So many businesses are reluctant to take on those staff, and this is, of course, a misconception that many of them have. And finally, many older business owners have an outdated perception of apprentices or trainee staff and don't really value them as part of the workforce. They just send them around making tea or doing photocopies, which is not adding value to the worker themselves. It's not giving them the skills they need, and it's not in the long term helping the business or the economy. So many sectors will rely on foreign workers because they're already trained up, they have experience, and it's cheaper for them. They don't have to spend money on training them, and in a sense, the government doesn't have to spend money on training them up either. But if you want to change that dynamic, you're going to have to spend huge amounts of money, and you're going to have to wait, because obviously people can't be trained up in a day. Let me know in the comment section, guys, what you think. As always, your comments are greatly appreciated. Thanks a lot.